Hello, Super League fans and managers, wherever you are. Um, Pre-recorded show tonight due to various time constraints and personal commitments that couldn't be changed. So this is the video that you're getting. What we're going to do tonight is that we're going to have a quick look at last week's action, some of the results, look at the key players and see how they performed. And then we're going to have a very quick look at the upcoming fixtures. Then we are going to have a quick talk about the transfers. So apologies to those who are fed up of listening to transfer chat, and hooray for those who aren't. Um, there are some more players to look at, maybe some prospects that you hadn't considered. Also, taking into consideration players that are interested in moving to the league, and just a few sort of hints and tips around how to proceed with the negotiations, just so you understand how it goes on. I mean, I appreciate that most of you will have this opportunity to do this yourself in your home saves if you ever want to find out how it works out when not two non-AI, two human managers are bidding for the same player. You would do well to try and give that a go yourself. I appreciate not everyone has time, so I'll try and do it for you, so you can see how that works. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later on. Confirmation of deadline day, and some other things. You've all had the calendar. Certainly, the managers watching, you've all had the calendar, so you should be in no doubt as when things are taking place. But without further ado, let's have a look at the weekend's results. First of all, let's have a look at the table. Valen at the top didn't extend the leads as they were perhaps hoping to, but it's still going strong. At the bottom, we've got Sloths, much improved recently, and Swindon, who perhaps going in the right direction, but not really taking the same steps as Sloths have to get out of that less than 10-point situation. Home form continues to be important. Most teams performing admirably, if not spectacularly, at home. There's a big split here in the league where a lot of teams only have 5 home games and a lot of teams have 7. So you could perhaps say that Panathinaikos is probably currently the team in the best position in the league because they've only had 5 home games, of which they've won all 5 of them, and they're still in the top 6. So well done to Panathinaikos. BTEC up here as well. Perhaps surprising to some, but BTEC are actually doing relatively well at home. BTEC's problems are well established. They are away from home, where it's 6 games and 6 defeats. Some goals were scored, in fact, more than many teams score away from home, and 20 conceded, which is not ideal. One thing that will be interesting to some is that Valen, who are currently top of the table, are not hugely impressive away from home. They've had so many home games in a row now that people perhaps have forgotten about their eh, slightly above average away performances with 2 wins, a draw, and 2 defeats, and only 4 goals, 4 and 4 goals against. Perhaps a form that's good enough for a top 6, but perhaps something that could be improved upon if they want to stay at the top of the table. So that's how that's currently looking. The results, as we all saw at the weekend, there were some great games, some less great games. We can have a look at them in the order that we had to look at them during the week. So first up, we had our Swedes welcoming the Hornets. Rio Ferdinand, man of the match. I think, as many people in the league know, Rio Ferdinand is leaving Valen. He's not really fitting into the squad. There are some issues there. People aren't taking to him there, so he's going to be joining a rival side. A rival may be a strong word, but he'll be joining another side in the league anyway, to be confirmed, mostly because I can't currently remember, and I don't have the sheet open with those details. Hornets, who have done really, really well for a period, and just recently have conceded a bunch of goals, 9 in the last 2 before this, changed their goalkeeper. Mark Bosnich did really well. We'll have a look at Rio Ferdinand, actually. As you can see, I mean, already only 23 years old, very, very strong. He's been performing really well. So the question is if Valen have um, a proper replacement for him, but no, and Andreas, I think he will have thought about this. Of course, it's not nice to lose a player of this quality. Cafu as well, maybe quickly, one of the highest performers in the league, 825, 5 assists. That's maybe the only thing he could have had a little bit more of, but still very very going very strong. Nakasa Fiore, nothing really spectacular up front. We're looking at Shevchenko with his 4 goals, which he didn't improve upon. Saviola again, high averages and few goals, something that I'm not personally a big fan of. Totti, who was definitely his star player, his key, his everything. Yeah, I think there's a lot of players that could have done similarly, but let's see if any of those pick up in the second half of the season. For Hornets, Bosnich replaced Landro in goal. Wise decision, perhaps. A very good goalkeeper, Mark Bosnich. Obviously with some personal life issues, but let's not dwell on that. He did well here and probably got the draw for Hoddesdon in the end. I mean, 4 shots each, but obviously he wasn't quite good enough as good as Ferdinand. So it stayed on a 9. Elguera, who's had a bit of criticism, got an 8. Batistuta another 8. Batistuta top scorer in the league, 12 games, 10 goals. Very strong. Stats are impressive. 32 years old, but nearly 33, but plenty of life in the old Argentinian. Etu, not as good as in his first game out, but still a decent performance for the young Australian. Yeah, I thought Etu would have started the season, but he didn't. But here he is. Overall, a slightly dull affair. Some good defensive performances, and not really a lot to write home about for the strikers. Slots, on the other hand, something to write home about for the strikers. We had Crespo with 2 goals. We have Balak chipping in from his slightly awkward position in midfield, and Rivaldo doing well as well. Damien Duff, who had a couple of good games, is not really wasn't really his game tonight, but he was perhaps up against the stronger side of the Cannons defense. Either way, Crespo was left pretty much to his own devices, and although he has had his ups and downs, I mean, there's a 5 in there, then he's got a few goals, and Sloths are moving in the right direction. Rivaldo, who had 3 assists last week and didn't get on Team of the Week, now he has a goal. He's in really rich vein of form here, doing very well for the Sloths, so they'll be pleased with that. Balak doing well as well in his position here, a couple of 8s in his forward position. Maybe not the best player in the league, but he's certainly doing a good job. And 8s all round. So the Sloths manager, Rob, will be very happy with this. Captain Simeone, 722. He's been a steady performer for the team this season in his 9 games. So Sloths moving in the right direction. Slight improvement for Chudley Cannons, conceding 4 instead of 6, but only scoring 1. Rossini scoring, Comandini not working, Liverani not working, Van Bommel not working very well. It's back to the drawing board for the Cannons. They've got, hopefully for them, some home games or an opportunity to settle themselves a little bit. But this was really a performance they could have done without, and a result they certainly could have done without. Not as much in it stats-wise as perhaps was goal-wise. So 10-9 in shots and on goal and on target. Good percentage for Sloth there. Same percentage-ish for Cannons, but they just failed to convert. So perhaps a little bit unfortunate that it was 4-1, but at the end of the day, a fully deserved victory for Sloths. Midlothian were expected to do very well at home. Unfortunately for them, it didn't turn out that way. They were unable to get past the Astor defence in what was perhaps the least interesting game of the evening. 6 shots for each team, only 1 on target. Truckload of free kicks, action zones, pretty much in the middle of the park. Nothing really to write home about apart from Mpensa's injury. He is out for, where does it say that? There, for 2 weeks with strained ankle ligaments, so nothing too serious, but an area where Ian will really look to strengthen because I think, is it Mpensa's second injury already? He had a groin strain and now he has, this is different. Yeah, ankle ligament. So this is his second injury. I think perhaps Kessman has had an injury as well, if I'm not much mistaken. Yeah, he's had a twisted knee, so a couple of slightly injury-prone strikers he's got there, so he'll be looking to improve on that. Neil Scally got a yellow card, obviously, can't control himself. Aston Athletic, slight changes for Alf. He said he stopped the rot with conceding goals. That's probably true, but with creating anything, it didn't really look like it. But perhaps he'll have more luck next time out. Materazzi has been bad whenever he's played, and tonight was no exception, or on Sunday night was no exception. That's just how it goes for him, unfortunately. No goals from the strikers recently, so that's going to have to be a concern for him. Nicolau, who had such a great start to the season, very young. Unfortunately, morale is low for him at the moment, so not doing particularly well. Ayala, I think, is probably also okay, but there's just some slight drops in performances. Placenta still doing really well, Giannetti doing really well as well, Jens Lehmann coming in for a 7, replacing Bartes in goal. So overall, a decent point for Aston Athletic, but they should have perhaps been looking for slightly more. Just all things considered, Midlothian is not an easy place to go. They hadn't conceded much earlier. They hadn't dropped a point at home. They have now. So from that perspective, it's a good result. But 0-0, yeah, I think Aston need a little bit more if they want to get back in that top 6 contention. Hooligans had a pretty bad day against Bolton Phoenix, who had quite a good day. Lots of shots for Bolton Phoenix, I think mostly in the second half after the first half ended with a red card for Yakubu. Good start for Hooligans with Kennedy, the backup midfielder, scoring there. Figo equalising not long after. And then basically Yakubu getting sent off just before half time due to a push on Raul, and then holding on pretty much until the end, until Henry eventually jumped above the Hooligans goalkeeper. So well done, Thierry Henry, and headed the ball into the net from a dead cross, and then the rest of the game, not much happened. If we're looking at the player ratings, so closing goal for Hooligans did an okay job. Brett Emerton continues to do a fairly decent job for Hooligans as well. They were without a number of defensive players, and I think that will continue with Yakubu definitely being suspended, Samuel possibly being suspended for his 5th yellow of the season as well. No sign of Mendieta coming back from injury, so it could be a tricky one next time for Hooligans to get a decent squad together and cover all the positions, especially in the defensive areas. Elba still not performing, but I think both Anelka and maybe one or two of the other strikers should be back shortly to take their place up front. Bolton Phoenix, a brilliant result from them, a really good solid performance defensively. There's 8s across the board. Neville still doing quite well. He had a couple of 7s, but he's back on form with. He's not. He's still getting a 7. Stefan Hencho, bit up and down for him, but overall solid. Bolton Phoenix have had a good defensive record recently. Dede is very strong with his came in with the assist. Sambrota is unsurprisingly doing really well still. Alex was perhaps a bit of a gamble in the center of midfield, and that didn't really pay off. Perhaps Keel will be back or someone else to take that position. Barong, 5 goals, but a very low number of assists and not a particularly high average rating for him either. Perhaps a little bit surprising considering his flair and set pieces that he's not getting more assists, but that's just the way it is. I mean, Figo is sort of stealing the limelight at the moment with his 7 goals in 12 games. He's done very well for Bolton, although let's see how long it lasts. There are obviously rumors flying around about players like Anelka, Pires, Figo, whether they are happy or not. But as long as he's performing and the manager shares his ambition, so I'm sure he'll be fine. Thierry Henry, 5 starts, 3 goals. Probably the best performance from Bolton Phoenix striker. Obviously, with Montella coming in, it'll be interesting to see if he's going to go with 2 up top or if he's going to give Montella a chance alongside one of the existing strikers. Overall, deserved result for Bolton Phoenix, considering the dominance that they had in the second half after the sending off to the Hooligans defender. Looking at Dragon Destroyers against Panathinaikos, a disappointing night out for Panathinaikos against their bogey manager Jamie and his various incarnations, Dragon Destroyers football monologue. This evening was no exception for that curse. So Ryan Giggs had really probably his best game of the season. Montella scored a couple of goals for the first time this season. He had one before. Viduka still without a goal, but generally a good performance from the Dragon Destroyer side. They had an early injury to Andy van der Meijden. I think he is out for a month with strained ankle ligaments. Carragher came in, did an okay job with a 7, but Jamie will perhaps looking at what other options he's got on that right hand side for the next game. Wustico did well in defence, and a shout out to young John Curtis as well, who came in, perhaps not with the most impressive stats that you've ever seen from a central defender, but he got a 9 and managed to keep Sand, Nikiforenko, Vasiliuk and the boys quiet. From a stats perspective, it was really all Dragons. Panathinaikos didn't have much on the night. Good conversion rate as well with regards to getting the shots actually on target for the Dragons, as we spoke about on the show. Looking at the action zones, it was really slightly more in the Panathinaikos half than in the Dragons half for sure. With regards to the ratings for the Panathinaikos players, Paul Robinson did a decent job at only letting 3 of the 11 shots that hit the target in, so he gets an 8 for that. Salihamidzic on the flank, not doing anything really. Cannavaro also a little bit overwhelmed by Montella Viduka, Robbie Keane, who only got a 7, but you kind of feel that he must have had some kind of involvement in it, considering his recent performances and how important he's been to the Dragons with so a couple of hat tricks, or at least one hat trick, and a few more goals there. Goals have dried up for Panathinaikos a little bit, but as we saw earlier, they've only had 5 home games compared to 7 for the other sort of top contenders. So we'll see if their fortunes will improve when they go home. Nikiforenko picked up a few days with a bruised shin, so he will probably be back in action for the next game. Then we'll had probably the game of the evening, certainly from a neutral's perspective, from just pure excitement, even if the quality was maybe, questionable at times, certainly defensively. Swindon Devils came out flying. Very good start to the game for them. Ian Hart with a goal, Sir Roberto extending the league around the halftime mark, and it looks as if they were home and dry. Although in the 70th minute, things started picking up for BTEC. They started to create more chances, and eventually it paid off for them. Inzaghi getting the first goal, Agahawa the second, and Inzaghi finishing up with 3. And you thought that had broken the spirits of Swindon, and it was going to be a 3-2 victory for BTEC. But in the last minute, Contra decided to chip in with an own goal. And as you can see here, there was a huge amount of activity in the 90th minute. So Amoruso blasted towards the top corner, and it was a deflection of Contra. So bad luck for the defender there, for the right back getting a deflection on that, which kind of cost BTEC 2 points there. And their otherwise impressive home record. Yeah, they had, I think it was 4. They would have had 5 wins from 6 if they'd won this one. So not too bad, their home record, but obviously you need to pick up more points, and certainly losing 2 points in the last minute is not the way you want to go about things. If you're looking at the performances of the individual players, I mean, Christian Abiati's goal, as we have spoken about previously, is perhaps not BTEC's strongest area, the goalkeeping scenario, but I believe that Buffon is coming in and in an attempt to address that issue. Martin Palermo, 6 goals and 7. Didn't score, but still a solid performance from him. Inzaghi, who's not come off to the best of starts for the season, got a couple of goals there. Pizarro's coming back from injury, so it'll be interesting to see what Ian does with that. Danielson did well, as he has done. He only had a 6 recently, but otherwise he's been on good form, good average rating, and chipped in with 6 goals and 4 assists as well. Johan Vogel resigned to the bench, 622 average, awful performer. I think Ian was expecting much more from him, but he has definitely not delivered. If you're looking at the Swindon Devil side, Pancaro got a 7, Amoruso and a 6, Taribo West a 6. Disappointing for the 2 central defenders, probably cost the team in the end, their lack of concentration. It is Inzaghi, of course, getting 2 goals, then the central defenders must have had some kind of part to play in that negatively. Ian Hart getting a goal and an 8. Good performance on the left back, especially considering that Roberto Carlos is on his way out, so there will be less competition for spaces at Swindon on that left back. We might see Ian Hart again, especially after a performance like this. Cambiaso not doing too badly. Sir Roberto also chipping in with a goal. No goal for Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. That would have been his 3rd game scoring in a row if he'd gotten one, but it was not to be. Andres Oliveira and Patrick Kluivert also not really contributing a lot. Assist-wise, there weren't any assists. The goals kind of just happened for Swindon, as was discussed on the night as well. BTEC, of course, with a ton of chances in the second half, where the way they dominated possession and dominated play. But to be fair, only to convert 3 of them is probably going to be a little bit disappointing. Although Dragons only got 3 goals as well out of 11, so it's just how it goes. Swindon, on the other hand, getting 3 goals with 2 shots on target, which is also it's always nice to get a free goal. But I can understand that Fifey would be a little bit upset with the way that the game turned out, having it pretty much in the bag with 20 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go even, and then losing it all, apart from the 1 point rescued by the opponent's defender in the very last minute. Either way, it was very exciting for everyone watching, both in the studio and at home. And yeah, well, you couldn't really ask for more action-wise or excitement-wise. Although we have had a game earlier, I think was it Aston Chutley, a game earlier in the season of similar last-minute drama, but a good match nonetheless. Last up, we have Ardsley Celtic, Churchtown Massive at home. Ardsley have been good, and they were perhaps hoping for a good result here. Unfortunately, Santiago Canizares put paid to that with his sending off on 42 minutes, which allowed Churchtown to dominate the rest of the game. They were already 1-0 up at the time. Ferguson converted the resulting penalty, and Robin put their final nail in the coffin in the dying seconds of the game. Player rating wise, there's not much to say. I mean, Arsenal were to some extent outplayed in most of the first half. They did manage to get a few chances, obviously, overall, but pretty much outplayed in the first half, and it culminated with that sending off for the keeper. Churchtown dominated the second half. There was not really much. In terms of levels of interest, we can see here that the probably the most exciting thing about the game was the 10 yellow cards and 1 red. Our new fan favorite is Wayne Dade, who's the one with the cards that come flying out at every opportunity. But overall, not the most exciting match, but Kieran will be very happy with the 3 points and the clean sheet away from home. That's not every week you pick up that. We've already spoken a little bit about the table, so we won't dwell too much about that. We'll have a look at the fixtures coming up. So we have Astor at home to Dragon Destroyers. This is really a time where Astor needs to start to get some points on the board. 3 points would be ideal for them here, but Dragons have not been bad recently. And if Viduka can get on the score sheet as well, along with Montella, then I'm sure Jamie would be delighted. A couple of injuries one injury for the Dragon side. Of course, where Ndiaye suspended, and Bandamaida was the one who picked up the injury where Carragher came in to cover. Astro Athletic, a couple of injuries. Of course, Boy is still out, and Koku is out as well. For BTEC, they're at home to Churchtown. I think fairly injury-free squad, apart from Cole. Churchtown are definitely injury-free and looking to improve on or looking to build on that excellent away performance that they had at Ardsley last week. Bolton Phoenix at home to Midlothian. This could be a cracker. Bolton trying to continue a good run of form. They had, of course, that 2-2 draw a couple of weeks ago, but they got a win here against Hooligans away, thanks to in part to that red card to the Hooligans defender. Interesting to see how they get up against Midlothian, who are probably desperate for away points if they're going to try to do some kind of consolidation job in that top six. At the moment, they're pretty much just visitors. Depending on how many home games they've had, we'll see how that develops for them. Charlie Cannons are at home to Hooligans. Hooligans have a bunch of injuries and suspensions, so this could be Charlie's chance. They're of course still very much in it for the top six, but the results haven't been really going their way lately, with 10 goals conceded in the last two. Hornets conceded 9 and 2 before they got the 0-0 draw against Valen this weekend. They're at home to Sloss, who are obviously much improved. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to if Sloss are able to break Hornets down. How will Ballack fare against the solid Hornets defense? And how will Hornets try to bounce back? I mean, they scored a lot of goals earlier in the season. Batistuta is still on 10, so there's goals in there, and it'll be interesting to see if some of those goals will start flooding back against the Sloss, who haven't had the best season. Praising them recently, but there's a long way to go for them, obviously. Panathinaikos is at home to Ardsley in an interesting matchup with Parma and Hodgie. That's always going to be a good battle, an interesting game, hopefully with goals, fairly open. There's not a lot of defensive sort of playing it safe in these two teams, so we are definitely looking forward to that. Panathinaikos, just with Nikiforenko still a little bit suffering with that injury, so he's not back. Seedorf is not back yet. There's a bit of a mess here. It could also be because I don't change the manager, so it might not be 100% up to date what you see from the other teams, but this is the best that we can do at the moment. Last up, we have Swindon Devils at home to Ardsley. Swindon, now is the time to start picking up some points. Valen did not score the last time out. In fact, did they score the time before that? They scored 1 against BTEC. So only 4 games in the last 4, although there are also 4 clean sheets. But definitely something for Swindon to build on here, or to work with. Trying to get in amongst it, maybe get an early goal and see what comes out of it. They're definitely not unbeatable. And if you look at their away form, they have only won 2 and 5 away from home, Valen. So that's definitely chances for for Swindon. Quick look at the team stats. First of all, the form. Bolton Phoenix are the top team at the moment. Valen United doing well, although there's a couple of draws in there. There's no real consistency in the league at the moment. So everyone has, there's no one with 5 in a row of anything. So a little bit more consistency will probably help anyone out if they want to to get higher up or to improve their position in the league. Panathinaikos with 5 wins on the trot at home is obviously very, very strong. Midlothian and BTEC Troopers with 5 losses away from home is obviously terrible. So I'm sure the managers will be looking at that. Games without losing, Ballon United is going 9, Bolton is going 7, quite impressive. And games without winning in the other side is really Asta who need that. They need the 3 points more than, not more than anyone, but if they're to turn this season around, even though we're only at the halfway stage, they need to start getting some points. We had a quick look at this before, goal from corners. I will just bring it up so you can see it, just in case you're interested. Churchtown are doing well from dead balls, in case you were paying attention. 3 from corners. BTEC have 2 from corners, and if we look at, and there's a few others as well, indirect free kicks. But here's Bolton again with 3, Churchtown with 3. So some good dead ball specialists in those teams. The only ones who's really scoring from direct free kick is Danielson. I think all of those are his. Yellow cards, it's Ardsley, Panathinaikos, Astra, Churchtown. Not so many for hooligans, which is perhaps surprising when you see that they, they are top of the table for red cards. So it's Ardsley really who are the bad boys of the league. Looking at the top performers, Lee Boyer still top, Sambrota and Cafu not far behind, Steve Finnan, Batistuta, Carsten Ramelov, perhaps a little bit of a surprise. Ebesan still up there, would have perhaps liked more goals rather than the rating. The top scorer chart is unchanged, although Rossini is closing in fast on Batistuta with 9 now in his 12 games, and Batistuta with his 10 in 12. Robbie Keane with 7 and 8, Figo with 7, also an 8. I think the most productive guy up here is Morientes with 7 and 5, so he could definitely be challenging if he can keep up that scoring rate. But we'll see what happens with that. That brings the review to a conclusion. So that's what happened last week. This is what the table looks like. Still very, very close. We have 21 points for second place and we have 17 for 10th. So that is a grand total of 4 points between second and 10th, and literally all to play for most of the teams in the league already. As we mentioned, Valen are out ahead, but they have a couple of home games more than away games, so that's probably not going to be great for them. But who knows? They have been very strong recently, so that could all be about to change. They could have an uptake in away form and run away with it, but it's up to everyone else to try their best to stop them. Obviously, that concludes the review. If you will bear with me for a very, very short second, we will pop into the alternative save, the alternative universe, where we are a little bit later on in time. So please don't pay too much attention to the squads and to the results, etc., because this has been running as AI. So there's no guarantee that that any of this will obviously, any of these results and performances will happen in real life. We're into the second season, so you can't see who won or anything like that. So, but I'll try not to stumble across anything. But I do need this because when we are talking about signing players, which is the next topic that we're going to talk about, a lot of the players that are available across the world are not scouted. So you can't see the stats, which is just how I play the game, and I never even thought about changing it. So therefore, I have had to to send out scouts to far and wide, and because it would take forever to do it with all the teams, I've only done it with one team and basically ran the game separately. What I will do now is I'll show you probably about 15 players who I've had a look at, who the scouts came back with recommendations for. And these are the stats as they are at the end of the first season. So if you go for one of these players and you buy them and you say, oh, Martin, you showed me on the screen that he had 17 in finishing, I bought him and he's only got 16, etc., 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 that's because it is at the end of the season these stats are, because it's taken a long time in game for me to obviously scout them and get all this information. There's a couple of half famous people in here, but all of them are interested in joining the Super League for various reasons, either because they are unhappy at their club or something like that. So there might be a few big names. I say big. There's one big name in here. The first guy we're going to have a look at, who comes up for transfer at the end at some point in the in the season, and someone that might be interesting for people to look at. But we'll dive into it, and I'll explain a little bit more what we're looking at. I was surprised that he wasn't actually in the league to start with. Christian Val. He has got very good stats, a very solid performer, French international already. Someone who's looking for cover in the central defence could do a lot worse than him. Could probably do better as well, but he's available. He's interested. He's finding it hard to adjust to the French lifestyle. Although why moving to Australia would help with that when you're in Spain, like literally 100 kilometers away. Then yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, he's someone that you could consider. I know some of you have been asking for bigger names, and have been requesting availability of some bigger name players, and I've not really been able to come up with much so far of people who are willing to join, but he's one of them. So sweeper, defender, center, good player if you're in the market for something like that. If you're in the market for a right wing kind of player, we have I don't know where his origins are from. Not Norwegian, I can guarantee you that. Um, He's from Vålerenga. I know how to pronounce the name of the club. His name Pa Modu Ka, I'm guessing. Very promising. Definitely willing to move to Australia. Can cover every single role on that right hand side. Stats are not too bad. Good crossing, good bravery. Flair's a little bit low, but he's fast. Acceleration and pace is good. 14 marking, teamwork. He's got good stats all over and a decent performance, as you can see in the first two games of the Norwegian season at the bottom. Not sure how much that says about anything, but good stats and probably quite high potential as well. And good to have a player that can cover all of that right flank, considering some of the tactics that you guys are utilizing. Um, so we don't dwell on this for ages, because I know most of you are just interested in seeing their stats, not listening to my personal opinion about it. We have four, not women, but people from Armenia, where Karen is a male first name. Here's another one. If you want to look at the left flank instead, 15 crossing. He's fast. He's got good acceleration, great passing. If you're into that short passing game, excellent stamina, so shouldn't tire. Maybe not world beater stats, but if you're looking for a backup or for someone who can come in and perhaps surprise a few people with his performances, you could probably do a lot worse than Dokoyan. Karen Dokoyan is going to be my attempt at pronunciation. So a decent defender on the left-hand side. Moving swiftly on, we are heading to Poland. Don't get too excited. It's not a new back, if that's what you're waiting for, but still a half decent. And he's a central midfielder. So the next 5 or 6 players that are going to come up now are going to be central midfielders, because everyone has asked me, Martin, are there any? Well, not everyone, but a number of you have asked me, are there any great central midfielders out there that I haven't looked at? The answer is probably not, but there are 5 or 6 where I would say maybe they could still do a job. This guy, he's lacking in a few of the stats, but he's strong in others. He's got a good average. Who knows? Maybe it's worth a punt. I mean, they are cheap. These these players, they are relatively cheap, so it's maybe something worth considering. Adam Majewski plays for Legia. Decent stats, mostly his stamina and his teamwork. His technique stands out. In the middle here, perhaps a little bit below what you are requiring, but I will try and show you these guys, because maybe one of them will jump out to you and you'll say, "Oh, this is just the central midfielder I've been looking for, and I can't afford to get Barry Ferguson, and Kieran doesn't want to sell him." So we got to look elsewhere. Bjarte Lunde Åsheim from Viking. He's got pretty good stats, decent central midfielder as well, good decisions, good determination, excellent passing, strong over on the right hand side, maybe not full of 20s, but good technique, good at pretty much everything. Flair could maybe be a little bit higher, but I think a player who could definitely do a decent job in a central midfielder role, maybe not holding it completely by himself, but definitely someone that you could do worse than him. Some of the players that are playing in the Super League are a lot worse than him for sure. Perhaps not in the MC role, but that's because there's so few of them already. But he's someone that you might want to consider. If you think that maybe this is not for you, then you can try another Norwegian. Let's see if we can bring him up here. So younger, but with a couple more 20s, with 20 in finishing as well, 20 off the ball. I know these are stats that some people are looking at. Great stamina, great teamwork. A few lower stats, but he is also only 22. So obviously there's time and space for him to develop over the next couple of years. It's just someone that, again, just because you want the central midfielders, I have tried to find them, and these are the best young available ones I could actually find. If you want to get a super old established name, then they're not super likely to go to Australia. I mean, you're welcome to ask me, and I will have a look if I've got time. But um, I don't have unlimited time, and neither do you. So perhaps consider some of these if it is desperately a central midfielder that you absolutely need. Next up, another one, another central midfielder. I think this is how you spell it. Yep, here he is. Um, Yugoslavian Gvostenovic, I think, could probably be how you pronounce his name. Good stats. It's probably the strongest of the ones I've shown so far overall. Not a lot of numbers under 10, a lot of high teens, 15, 16, 17. Still room for improvement, still only 23. He could probably do a job in most teams as well in that central midfielder role if that's what you're after. He's going to do better than most of your DMCs or AMCs that you put in there. Maybe his stats won't look better, but if you compare them, his rating will probably be higher than those guys that you've got there. We do have two more central midfielders to come. So first of all, we have this guy, I think. Here we go, Walter Fabian Coelho. Um, Central wise, not super great on the left hand and the right hand side. He's done really well. He had a good season last year, and can't remember national. He's in the Uruguayan league. He's done pretty well this year as well. I'm not sure if anyone's going to go for him just because his central column here isn't that great. But I think we're scraping the barrel now with with central midfielders. I thought I'd show him just in case that anyone thought I need a Uruguayan for my team chemistry, or have I been playing too much FIFA? Who knows? The last central midfielder is kind of not really a central midfielder. He's an RLC, I think, Patrick Holtet, again from Viking. So if anyone's ever had a Viking or Viking game in Norway, they definitely got a couple of good central midfielders to start off with. He's been playing very, very well. He's got good stats. There's 20s all over the place, 20 acceleration, finishing, flair, strength, technique, pace, 15 for passing. He's only 21. I think that's someone that again, you could do a lot worse considering some of the kind of nondescript kind of older guys that are in some of the teams. If you prefer Lee Hendry or someone else, then obviously that's also cool. But I think Patrick would be an interesting addition to the Super League. Pretty much halfway through the list at the moment. Do we have another midfielder or is this a defensive one? Let's have a look. We have Sebastian, but that's the wrong one. This Sebastian Johansson, so a right-sided defensive midfielder. If you're looking for a Gerrard kind of Gattuso-y kind of player, perhaps slightly lower stats, but also only 21 with room to develop, then Sebastian Johansson might be the guy that you're going to be signing. Again, we're trying to look at them a little bit younger, but with good stats already, so they can come in and do a job instead of looking at players that won't come to the league because they're already established in decent European clubs, unless they're unhappy or transfer listed or whatever. I will try and keep on top of that for you guys as well and send out that information, but I don't have it at the moment. We'll leave that for the summer break really to see if any of the big names are willing to change clubs. I mean, Christian Val was one of them. He was unhappy earlier. Del Vecchio is someone who's probably going to come up in the summer as well, just because he's unhappy with things. But again, he's maybe a little bit older. But of the established names, I will have a look when we get to the end of the season to see if there's any of them who are happy to change clubs. Let's have a quick look in Turkey now. Sanil Tuncay. Interesting, I think. I've not ever owned him or seen him before, but he did really well for his young age. He's got some 10s, 11s, 12s, lower stats, but he's also got some high stats in the right places. Acceleration, agility, determination, finishing, heading is good. He's good jumping, pace. He could be better, clearly, good technique, but again, it's a very young, promising player. If you're looking at a backup for that position, maybe a guy who can develop a little bit over time, then Tunjai is also an option for you, definitely. We do have another one who you might be familiar with. Certainly, those of you who play in Scotland occasionally will know that Stephen Pearson can be quite good in this particular game. He has definitely got some promising attributes as well. Great acceleration, agility, dribbling, determination, pace. Pretty good for that AMC role. Some of these stats may be a little bit low. Positioning could be better, but then he makes up for it with some really strong ones over on this side. Not sure how 20 dribbling and the 11 technique compare, but let's not dwell too much on the details. 11 tackling, oh well, for an AMC. Who can really complain about that when you've got 18 stamina, 17 strength, 19 teamwork? Promising attacking midfielder, again, someone that you can buy in. He can do a job already coming in from the bench or maybe covering, and then in 2 or 3 seasons he's going to be a lot better. We continue with our attacking midfielders. We have a Romanian chap coming up next, maybe. Let's see if we can find him. This guy, Florent Cernat. He's currently at Dynamo Kiev. The main thing that attracted me to him was his 20s over here. I think that was a 20 on the right hand side search. But he's also fast. Acceleration, pace is good. Great flair. Creativity, only 11, 13 crossing, but good determination, dribbling. Again, as a backup player, if you're desperate for an AMLC and you can't get anything else, and you're a sucker for 20s, then he's someone you could definitely look at. Then we've got a guy who I think is in Saudi, so I'm not sure if anyone has looked at him before. Emmanuel Ebiede, Nigerian, right-hand sided attacker. The league is probably not the best, but he has got 11 goals and 10 assists. Decent stats all over the place, mainly because he's 26, but he's available at a fair price. Good, promising, right-sided player. Could probably, again, another one who could definitely do a job. Doesn't look too bad, and the price is probably reasonable. 250,000, and he wants to want to impress visiting scouts, move to a bigger club, and wants a new challenge. You could pick him up for 250,000, maybe 500,000, if that's something that you would be interested in. Next up, it took me a little while to work out what this guy's name is, because I looked at the letters and I was like, this makes no sense. His name is Wesley. I have no idea how I couldn't see that when I first looked at it. Clearly, he's Wesley, just spelled the way Brazilian people like to spell things. He's good. He has good numbers, strong. He's maybe not quite RX back, but if anyone who's in for back miss out on back, then Wesley is perhaps your man, because he has got the high numbers over on the right hand side. He's got good acceleration, good finishing, good long shots, proven goal scorer, good pace, flair. He's not the youngest, but if you need a guy now, then why not give it a shot? 300,000. You couldn't really go wrong with that, could you? And that's Wesley, playing in Japan at the moment. If no one's ever played in Japan or scouted Japan before, then do so. Do yourself a favor and scout Japan. There's very good talent there, and the prices aren't too bad either. Who else can we offer for sale? We have Surawski, Polish forward, right, left center. Again, good stats. There's a couple of odd kind of drops here and there, 9s and 10s somewhere. But again, very, very strong. Good stamina, good technique, good acceleration, pace. He's got good finishing, can create. It's a forward, right, left, center, so he can play in those kind of all those 4 areas that you guys like up front. So someone, again, that anyone who's just looking for a bit of squad depth or willing to take a bit of a punt on a player that they maybe don't know that well, Surawski could be your man. Surawski could definitely be your man. We've got a couple of more interesting. We think we're moving into the strikers now. There's only 4 of them, so we won't dwell on them too much. I'm just going to recommend him just because. Where is he? Where are you, Carl? Where are you? Why has no one bought Carl Court? Look at his stats. He's great. Come on, Carl Court is out there and he's interested, and he's 400,000. And there's got to be someone with a bit of love for Carl Court. I hope so anyway. We have got this guy as well with a great name. I don't know if anyone's ever played him before. Again, a striker, good stats. I don't know why his balance is only 4. Who knows? Work rate perhaps not the greatest either, but he scored a ton of goals in the previous season, I think. No, he didn't. He scored 8. maybe it's a different guy, but he's gotten off to a good start here, and he did well in the. I feel like he did well in the World Cup. There's a reason why I picked him up. Relatively fast, good bravery, good finishing, great in the air, great stamina, great strength. Teamwork is also good as well. Backup striker or second striker, call it what you like. It's definitely something that you could go for. Again, price-wise, he's 500,000. He's probably going to be delighted to move to a bigger club. Then we have this chap here. I was not familiar with Magnus Powell, but is another striker with half decent stats. Perhaps not so promising that he hasn't scored in his first 3 games, but definitely got the stats to perhaps make him a talent. I don't know if Alf's going to pick up all of these and do a CM scout on them, but maybe he will do you that favor. We do have one more player. I wasn't sure if he would join, but I have test bought him, and he will. Um, well, you can see him now. As you can see, I have test bought Everton with Bolton Phoenix. He definitely wants to come. He's not cheap, but he is Brazilian, and his stats are already pretty good. He hasn't played for Bolton Phoenix yet, but I think he had a fairly sort of quiet couple of years at Corinthians already. But he's if you want a young striker, probably the young striker with the best attributes that I found so far. Then it's definitely Everton. Everton. Either way, Brazilian names. We'll get Tiago on to do a masterclass on those. So that concludes the scouted players here. I hope there weren't too many disappointments. I hope you're not too disappointed, basically. I hope you saw some players that you might consider in the future if you are, again, one of those managers that's looking outside of the league. What you will have to do for these players is that we will have to scout them with your specific club. So if you're interested, now you know what their stats are like, so you don't have to waste time or anything like that. You know that if you say, I would like to buy this guy, can you scout him so that I can put a bid in? Because otherwise you're obviously only allowed to bid like, I don't know, 10% of their actual value or something if you haven't scouted them. So if any of these guys take your fancy, or if you just want to put them on your shortlist for maybe the summer transfer market, then just give me a shout. I'll be more than happy to get them scouted for your club and get them on there. What I can't do is I can't scout every single one of the 30, 40, 50, 60 prospects that I have with every single 14 clubs because I also have to breathe and work and have food and things like that. So unfortunately, I can't do that. Anyway, that concludes the shortlist check here. All I really want to talk about then after that is the deadline day actions. So again, if you've already done your deals, if you're not interested, you can just turn off. This is the end of the stream for you. Thank you very much for listening. If you are still doing some deals or still looking at it, or if you're just curious, then I can tell you that the deadline day is as you've seen in your packs. It's coming up very shortly, so please make sure that you have the information that you need and you send it on to me. For Super League to Super League transfers, all you need to do is tell me which players are going, where they're going, what the prices are, and I will effectuate all that. I found out that setting the players as you will have to set them as not needed by the club and unhappy, because then they will accept the offer. Otherwise, they're reluctant to leave for rival clubs, etc., etc. So we'll have to do that, but that's obviously not a problem either. Could be a problem if you want to buy them back in the future if they don't like you or something like that. But either way, let me know who they are for Super League to Super League transfers. For Super League to non-Super League teams, it would be great if you could tell me if you want your players transfer listed. If you tell me, please transfer list this player and sell him to outside the club or whatever you want to do with him, if you don't give me any instructions, if you say, can you transfer list this player, I will sell him to the first bid I get. I don't care about the price. I don't care about anything. If you want a specific price for him, if you don't want them sold within the Super League, if you don't want them sold outside the Super League, if you don't want them sold under 10 million, under their valuation, under one thing or another, then please just let me know and I will write that into the comments. And when I get the bid, I can handle them in that way. If you say, please transfer list player A, and he's at 10 million and Juventus bid 5 million for him, I will sell him for 5 million because the players that are on your transfer list are out of your squad. They're in the reserves. You cannot take them back. They have to leave the club as soon as possible. That's the effect of transfer listing players. We have been over this before, so that's just to confirm how that works. Obviously, the board can sanction it if the bid is too low, but now we're talking super hypothetical. So you all know the value of your players. You have been given all this information, so please do tell me who you would like to sell and how much you would like to sell them for. It's not super complicated, and it really helps me in the decision-making process, just speeding things up. The big thing, or not the big thing, but the topic that is perhaps the most complicated, is non-Super League players going to Super League clubs. All you have to do by transfer deadline day, the first transfer deadline day, because there is a second one, as you've probably seen, is that you need to submit a list of the players outside of the league, ranked by preference, that you're interested in buying. Then you would need to confirm the following. You need to confirm the starting bid, so how much you would like to pay as your starting bid for this player, and how much your maximum bid is for the player. So let's say he's valued at 500,000. You will tell me I will start with 1 million and I will go up to 5 million. I will then bid 1 million for the player. If that's rejected, I will make a 25% increase or whatever I deem of relatively like a relatively good idea to do, to go up to maybe 1.5 to 2 to 2.5, etc. And then eventually you will either get the player or the offer will be rejected. If the offer is rejected at your maximum bid, then you cannot bid on the player again until the next window. So make sure you if you desperately want someone, make sure you have a high enough maximum bid available. What I would also like you to do is to confirm the sign-on fee. This is important if you have more than one player bidding for the same, more than one manager rather bidding for the same player. Of course, if you're the only person buying a player, as soon as the club's accepted, I will just offer the player whatever it is that he's asking for, maybe up the goal scoring and assist bonus a little bit or something like that. But normally I will just make sure you get him. If there are two managers bidding for the same player, it could have an outcome on which club the player chooses. If both bids are accepted, or all three bids, or four bids, or whatever it is, they might have a preference to having a sign-on fee of 3 million over one of 1 million, or they could have preferences of the clubs or things I have no idea about. So please consider this as well. The sign-on fee can be between 500,000 and 3 million, but all of this is in the information that I've already sent to you. So to sum up, if one manager is bidding, the chairman will handle the negotiations. You just tell me, you give me the information and I'll do the rest. If more managers are bidding, all starting bids will be placed in the game. It's up to the selling club to accept, reject, or negotiate. All successful managers will offer the required wages as stated by the player and the confirmed sign-on fee. So the confirmed sign-on fee is the fee that you've given to me. If you want to see how this works in practice, here's one I prepared earlier. We have Mr. T in charge of Valen United. Valen has made a transfer bid for Philip Christenval. Where did we go? Here's the first one. Down one, perhaps. Well, either way, with Valen, I placed a bid for Philip Christenval for, I think it was 7.75 million. And immediately they go to offer the contract, etc., etc., etc. You can give them a contract and everybody's happy. You can see here it says Christenval transfer bid rejected. That's not us. That's Mr. B from Panathinaikos, who, if we go to his news, has made an offer for 5 million for Philip Christenval. What happened there is that Barcelona went back and said no, they would like 7.75 million because that is the bid that they had obviously already received from Berlin. So they basically upped that. Now, if Mr. Panathinaikos or Mr. B or whoever's in charge of it had said that his maximum price that he would be willing to pay for Philip Christenval was 7 million, he would not have been able to make this bid. And the deal would have automatically continued over on Mr. T's account for Valley United, because we can see here that's been rejected. Panathinaikos make a new offer for this, and that was rejected. So now they are bidding 7.75. If he had put the maximum price lower, he would not have been able to make this bid. So this is how it will work, if that makes sense to you. This is really the best way I can explain it. The two managers go in with each of their starting bids. The club will either reject both of them, accept both of them, or accept one and reject the other. If the rejected bid is then increased, they will most likely, in the three examples I've tried, they will negotiate to the bid that they have already accepted from the other team. I'll let you draw your own conclusions because there is a very obvious one here, but I'll leave that to you to ponder on with regards to the upcoming transfer market, transfer dealings, transfer negotiations. I know we make a big deal of it compared to the actual number of possible non-Super League transfers, but I'm really trying to test this out so we can see how it works and so that we can see whether we can replicate it in the following seasons or we need to completely rethink it. So make sure you get those details in before the end of the week. It's who you want to buy, it's your starting bid, your maximum bid, and the potential sign-on fee that you want to offer. All the details are in the pack that was already sent. If you want any help with or have any questions about players, etc., I mean, I've mentioned it before, you're more than welcome to ask me if Roberto Baggio or if Dimitri Albertini or Luis Enrique or I don't know wants to join the Super League, but no, they don't. They don't. But I will check for you again. I'm not gonna go and say there's a blanket ban on signing players. I told you that you can't sign. I'm more than happy to place bids for you on anyone. But they will most likely be rejected on if they are players of that caliber, or if I have already confirmed once that they'll be rejected, then they're unlikely to have changed their mind over the course of a week or two in game. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, you'll have seen something on the shortlists tonight and on the previous shortlist that you like, or you found someone yourself that you would like to put in a bid for. Remember, you're clearly not limited to the players I show here, although I think some of them are really good. If you have any additional questions, anything like that, obviously, as usual, more than welcome to DM me at any time. I will answer back as soon as I can with queries. I'll do screenshots. I'll show you examples. But otherwise, this is probably going to be it with regards to explaining how the transfers are going to work, and you're just going to have to sit back, relax, submit your players that you want bids placed for, and then you'll find out very very shortly whether you get any of them, or rather after the round 13. So happy shopping when it gets that far. I don't think I've forgotten anything. So with that, I'm gonna close the video for tonight. I was hoping that it would be just about an hour, which is I have somehow managed. So that's a kind of a new record. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Bye bye.